You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to another episode of the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm Sam Little, and round of 16 of Euro 2024 is in the books. It's in the history books. Ain't no changing it now. And yeah, of course, there's some talking points. There's some stuff to talk about. Obviously, 8 teams went out, 8 teams went through. That is how you do math, and that is the most mathematical we'll probably ever get here on the Maple Footy Podcast. And yeah, lots of thoughts, some opinions, and just some things to talk about, guys. And why not start off with the first game of the round of 16, defending champs Italy going out to Switzerland 2-0. Oof. Italy, where do I even start? Following the absolute madness of that Croatia finish to clinch Italy into the round of 16, they failed to capitalize on that momentum in the end, and it ends up being a pretty embarrassing defense of the European crown. Definitely the most embarrassing of my lifetime, if I'm being honest. They had a good 20 minutes against Albania and a good 20 minutes against Croatia. Everything in between and after that was pretty poor, all things considered. They did have a couple, and I mean a couple, glimmers of hope. Donnarumma was a standout. He was one of the best keepers at the tournament, and he definitely deserved a whole lot better from his team. And I'm not the biggest Donnarumma fan. I find he's a little bit overhyped at times, but when he puts that Italy shirt on, he does look every bit the player that we were promised all those years ago. And yeah, absolutely, this is not on him. And just, yeah, definitely deserved a lot better, him personally. And then you look at his 2 center backs in front of him. Calafiori is obviously the breakout star. He was unreal and was definitely missed against Switzerland. I'm not saying the result would have been different had he have been in, but he was definitely missed at the back. Mancini really, really struggled to fill in for him. And yeah, it was a shame to not see him play this game because he has been just such a magnet that you just want to watch. But alas, we'll have to watch him at club level. If he stays with Bologna, which it's looking highly unlikely. If he goes to Juve, which is also starting to look unlikely. But yeah, looking like Arsenal or Chelsea potentially. I'm hoping Chelsea, obviously. But yeah, breakout star for sure. Definitely missed it in this game. And then his partner, Bastoni, as well, I thought had a great tournament. After that, it's a bit of a stretch. DeMarco had moments, but his tournament will most likely be remembered for that Albania throw-in, although I do think he was a good outlet on that left flank. And Barella also had his moments. They both weren't consistently great. DeMarco, I also think, was missed against Switzerland. And then after that, I think you're stretching to really even get any halfway decent performers, never mind good. So I do think Di Lorenzo and Scamacca were having a competition between who could be the worst performer on the pitch each time they played, because just terrible. Scamacca, I don't know what he was doing, and Di Lorenzo, same thing. You expect more, especially from Di Lorenzo, who's won the Serie A, was on the team and a starter last time out at the Euros, so it's not like he's a newcomer, I don't understand. And Scamacca, just wasn't the best. Their midfield lacked any real control. Like I said, Barella was probably the only good midfielder. Jorginho, Fagioli, Cristante, Pellegrini, Fratesi all lacked anything really positive throughout the tournament. I mean, Fagioli literally came in for Jorginho for this Switzerland game and then 20 seconds into the second half, hoofs the ball right at Switzerland, and Switzerland takes it and scores. So, if you're going to be a replacement, at least justify the inclusion. And then any guys that did kind of show glimpses, like Zaccani, was rewarded with seeing the bench. I think there was just terrible choices made by Spalletti. No proper striker, no real tactics to get the best out of the best players. Sticking Chiesa out right wing when he accelerates on the left. Just so strange to me. And not accelerates. Accelerates is a speed. Excels on the left. There we go. We got it. We're professional here on the Maple Footy Podcast. But yeah, just super strange. I think the Italian system is fundamentally flawed at this moment in time, which many people have already touched upon. They're not setting up young players for success, and they just need a total restructuring from the inside out, if you were to ask me. But ultimately, it is a disappointing showing for the defending champs, and it's kind of sad to see such a rich and historic country like Italy, who are one of the greatest footballing nations in the world, kind of see them go out like this. Now 2 back-to-back World Cups they've missed as well. Spalletti didn't set them up for success, but there was definitely a distinct lack of care from a good portion of those players that don the jersey, which to me is unacceptable. It's one thing to be subpar, but it's another just not care, and that's the most disappointing thing for me. So from disappointing to overachieving, Switzerland, they dismantled the champs. And honestly, if this was a boxing match, the referee would have forced the stoppage. After the first goal, it looked like it was probably done and dusted at 1-0, and Italy was probably not going to come back. But then less than a minute into the second half, it was truly over, and they could have called it and saved 45 minutes from everybody's life, if we're being honest. There was no fight from the Italians, but take nothing away from the Swiss, who were firing on all cylinders and have been all tournament, if we're being real. Their defense was solid. Although pretty unchallenged, they were more of an attacking threat more than anything. And, Abitschur was solid and has quietly had a pretty stellar tournament. Freuler and Xhaka are pulling the strings. Xhaka is having a player of the tournament caliber outing. He's been unreal and just pulling the strings. No one could get close to him this tournament. So I think he'll be one to watch against England, see how England tries to deal with him going into this quarterfinal, because I think stop Xhaka, I think you are stopping a lot of that Swiss class. Then you're looking at guys like Ndoye, who is really a handful and causing so many problems against any team he's come against so far. And Vargas has been a great outlet, as well as putting in a great strike for that second goal. This team is just playing out of their skin right now. And yeah, I mean, who's to say that Switzerland don't make the semis? They are looking that good. So we will see. England won't be easy, but don't count Switzerland out just yet. Looking at Germany, host nation, and Denmark, it was 2-0, and what more can we really say about Germany? They have been the team to beat up there with Spain, if you're to ask me. Neuer looking like prime 2014. Schlotterbeck made his first appearance of the tournament and hardly put a foot wrong outside of a mistake at the very start of the match. Rom stepped in for Mittelstadt, and he did really well. Kimmich has been superb as per usual. Nothing new there. One of the best players in the world is still one of the best players in the world. Rudiger is still proving that he's one of the best center backs in the world. Kroos is probably the best midfielder in this competition, if not top 3 at worst. He's just controlling the game and is still just such a general in that midfield. And I'm not going to harp on Toni Kroos too long, because I have fanboyed over him a little bit in past episodes, so we're going to move past him. Sané, for me, didn't really light it up, and I'd be tempted to put Wirtz back in the 11. I think he was kind of missed, but you are also running the risk of playing him out of position as he has been, and he hasn't been as effective as you would want him to be, because with Bayer Leverkusen, Wirtz played more centrally. With Germany, he's kind of been playing more so out on the wings, with still being able to drift in centrally. So, but when Sané wasn't really looking great, I'd be tempted is all I'm saying, but Nagelsmann's the one that makes that choice, not me. Musiala is another player who is having a player of the tournament level showing, and if the tournament ended today, I would actually give it to him. And at the very least, young player of the tournament, because he has been that good, young player of the tournament would probably be contested with Yamal, 16 years old and is currently crushing it. So, good job. And Havertz to me is still a weak link. I know he scored his penalty. It was very nicely taken. I just fail to see what he does and what he offers. I still think they look better with Füllkrug in, and he's a lot more dangerous in that box. He's more of a presence. I think he adds to the build-up play a little bit more as well. Just kind of a classic number 9 striker, and when Havertz isn't really doing anything but walk around the pitch moaning and groaning, to me, he shouldn't be starting, but obviously he probably will still retain his spot given that he has started every game of the tournament. Up next, as I've already mentioned them, they do have Spain, which on paper is honestly like a final. These two have been the best 2 teams in the tournament. So it will be interesting to see, because I would say the winner of that game is probably going to be favored to win the tournament, but obviously anything can happen. So host nation will have their hands full, and it will be a very difficult one to call. And then Denmark will feel a little bit hard done by with Anderson's goal being disallowed. It could have been a different story had the goal stood, and yes, it was offside. Yes, it was his heel. Was that why the offside rule was introduced? No, I do believe it's a bit harsh, but how can we fix this rule? Where's the line? Like, if a part of your body is over the defender, I guess, over that defending line, what else can we do? How can you word that to make it so it's not so harsh that the tip of a guy's heel is what's making him offside? It is harsh, but like I said, that's the rule. So you do feel like they were hard done by, but what's the solution? You know what I mean? But yes, it does suck. Hopefully they figure out something for this rule, but in all fairness, I do think Denmark have had a pretty lackluster tournament. They probably peaked in that first half against Slovenia or that second half against England. 3 draws in the group stage and then knocked out in the round of 16. Some disappointing tournaments from players like Eriksen. Their defense as a whole I thought was just not good. Højlund was a non-factor, and this really felt like it had to be his time to kind of show that he is a quality player, as many people are doubting him at the moment. And yeah, they just never really looked to get off the ground. And then facing a team like Germany, there was really only one outcome from this one. Look at England, Slovakia. England did pull the rabbit out the hat 2-1. And honestly, I don't know what to say about England. I've kind of said what I've said about them. My opinion still hasn't changed. They don't look great. Their players aren't looking like the quote-unquote superstars that they should be looking like. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it was a moment of magic from Bellingham. It's all he did all game. Harry Kane as well probably should have left the game with at least 2 goals. But his one's enough to take them through. This game, if we're being honest, no disrespect to Slovakia, this game should have been done and dusted by halftime. And the fact that it took England till the 95th minute to pull something off is a little bit embarrassing. Obviously, they won't care because they are in the quarterfinals, but they just don't look great. Another easy draw for them to get to a final. And yeah, I honestly don't have anything more to say about them. I'm so tired of all the news outlets covering them, all these pundits coming out to talk about them. So I'm kind of just tired about hearing about them, kind of tired about talking about them. So I'm just going to move on if I'm being honest. Slovakia, I'm not even Slovakian, but that was a tough one to take. No one gave them a chance, and they were a minute away from going to the quarterfinals, which would, I believe, be the first time in their history. No one gave them a shred of hope, and they were agonizingly close. Slovakia were playing out of their skin. They had scouted England really well, kind of nullified anything that England kind of could offer. And they were really testing Pickford a lot in that first half, especially. They got their goal from Schranz, who classy finished and was unreal this tournament. 3 goals for him. So definitely a very good tournament. Potentially a player to watch if he's going to get a move or not. But they could have probably even went to that halftime, maybe 2-0 up. And then the second half, they absorbed pressure really well for the most part, obviously up until that Jude Bellingham bicycle kick. And then going into extra time, Slovakia just looked tired and conceded early. And from there, it never really looked like they were going to come back, but they did still go out swinging. A special shout out to Lobotka, who I thought was such a midfield general. He was the best midfielder on the pitch over that 120 minutes, controlled Slovakia's game, did the dirty work, and was unlucky to be on the losing side. As well as a shout out for Skriniar, who was just an unreal performer, I thought. Once again, probably the best center back on the pitch. Just a proper captain's performance from him. Looked unstoppable at times, led by example, was fearless, exactly what you want in a captain. Just a top-tier center back, and he has been for a long time. So, sucks that they are going out because most times, the underdogs aren't the ones that end up going through. But it's definitely a tournament that Slovakia should be proud of. Moving into Spain, Georgia 4-1, and starting off with the winning side, what more can be said about Spain? Between them and Germany, obviously, the 2 best teams in the tournament, and they will be playing each other, so mouth-watering stuff if we're being honest. But Spain are just playing so nice right now. In possession, they barely put a foot wrong. Every pass feels like it has a purpose. And it's not just for passing's sake to keep the possession. And then outside possession, they kind of sit back until they pick their moment, and then they just have so much pressure on their opponent, and then Spain gets the ball back and then just goes back to doing what they were doing. To a man, they are looking pretty great. I think where they're looking best is in the midfield and on the wings. Fabian Ruiz, Rodri, and Pedri are all looking great. Rodri has that clutch goal gene in him where it seems like he puts up his best and biggest moments when his teams need him. Ruiz has been looking really, really good and has bagged himself 2 goals now this tournament. The way he cuts grass with his passes and he evades the press and keeps the ball almost stuck to his foot it's just so nice to watch if we're being honest. Pedri is a great creator in that center too. The 3 of them kind of complement each other really well as they all offer something really different, but it's not just a mismatch of just, well, here's our best 3 players. Go play, there's a plan there, and they're looking really good. Then on the wings, you obviously have Wonder Kid Yamal, who's not looking out of place at all in this tournament. He looks like a starter. He reminds me of if he was a young Riyad Mahrez, a tricky winger that's also such a chance creator. Some of the crosses he puts in look far beyond his years, and yeah, just electric on that right wing, sorry. Speaking of the left wing, though, Nico Williams has been such a joy to watch. He is such a handful for defenders he's faced, and they just don't have an answer for him. The way he dribbles past these defenders and is making them look just like they're on skates is just something to watch and really entertaining to watch. I've really enjoyed watching him. And yeah, well-oiled machine, this Spanish side, and it's going to be tricky for Germany, and honestly, flip a coin between who's going to go through, and whoever does go through should probably be the picks to win it, but tournament football, anything can happen. And looking at Georgia, such a shame that they are going out, because what a team, what spirit, what story. Teams like Georgia is, I think, why we all watch and love football. Underdogs by every sense of the word. They pushed Turkey to the limit on the first match day, got a crucial draw against Czech, and then that iconic Portugal win. No one in the world expected that win, and it was special. Well-deserved and such a great victory. And I'm sorry if you didn't watch it because, wow, that was a once-in-a-lifetime result in my opinion. They're, 74th ranked in the world against a top 10 side like Portugal, and they won? Come on. What other sport has this? It's just so beautiful, man. But sadly, all good things do come to an end, and it would have taken a twice-in-a-lifetime result against Spain to see Georgia get through the quarterfinal. But some stars were definitely born and some solidified themselves in this tournament. Looking at the big three, obviously goalkeeper Mamadashvili, one of, if not the best goalkeepers and players at this tournament, full stop. A big move is most definitely on the horizon because some of the saves he was making through this tournament were massive and even kept some out against Spain too. The striker Mikatadzik, I really hope I said his name right. I probably didn't though. I'm sorry. Scored 3 goals and was great. His overall play this tournament was also really good too. It's not just that he was scoring goals. He was also really complimenting Kvaratskhelia really well and kind of trying to link up play a lot and carried the ball really well. Just a really good player. Apparently West Ham's in on him right now, so it'll be interesting to see if that move materializes. We'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, already mentioned him, Napoli's Kvaratskhelia. A big iconic goal from against Portugal. And while he wasn't the official goal scorer against Spain as it was an own goal, it really felt like it was his goal. Forces the defender to blink, and of course the ball ends up going in the back of the net. Kvaratskhelia is such a joy to watch, such a great player, and I'm really happy he got to shine on the global stage with so many eyes on him, as maybe not many, maybe more so casual fans would have known him until now, but they definitely do know him now, and yeah, what a player. Just such a good player. And the tournament is going to miss Georgia. Everyone loves an underdog, and their fan support has been unreal. The players have been great. So shout out Georgia, and credit to them in Spain for putting on a good match. And the respect there was really nice too at the end there. All the players kind of just being together, and, you know, just nice to see sometimes that, you know, there is still some class in the game. Next up is France-Belgium, and just an underwhelming match if we're being honest. France have probably been the most underwhelming team based on expectation to their actual level of performance this tournament. They don't look good, just to be blunt. Something is not clicking, a lack of great flow and tempo within the squad, no goals from open play this tournament, 2 own goals in their favor, and an Mbappe penalty are the only times they found the net, which is concerning, but they do still, of course, find themselves in a quarterfinal. And in goal, Maignan, I do think is an improvement on Hugo Lloris and has made some big saves. Their defense looks solid enough. I'm still not sold on Saliba in this team. He still looks shaky. The commentators were talking about how great he's been this tournament. I think I'm in the minority. I don't know. I'm just not a massive fan of him in this team. He doesn't look great. I still think Konate does a better job than him, but who am I to say, you know? Then I think Koundé looks good defensively, but leaves a little bit to be desired on the attacking front. Lucas Hernandez and Upamecano, I do think look good for sure. The midfield looks incredibly unbalanced. Conte, of course, is rolling back the years and is looking like prime N'Golo Conte again. Tchouaméni, who I rate incredibly highly, has had an up and down tournament. I do find he complements Conte well, but his attacking ability has really let him down. He had a good few opportunities this game, but never found the target. And then Rabiot, I'm just left confused as to why he's playing. He hasn't looked good this tournament, and he hasn't looked good at club level for a while. And he's playing over a guy like Camavinga, or even moving Griezmann back into that midfield and then putting maybe like a Coman or a Dembele where Griezmann has been playing. And speaking of Griezmann, definitely not his best international outing, but he's been good, just not great. His final ball has let him down a few times, and not particularly the Griezmann that we've all come to know and appreciate. And then looking at Thuram, he's not looked good, in my opinion. His overall play hasn't offered a whole ton. He doesn't link play well, and he hasn't really gotten himself on the end of many great chances, and when he does, just nothing really comes from them. And Koulibaly looked like an instant improvement when he came on for him in this game. And I think even Giroud would be an improvement at this moment in time. Then you, of course, have the main man himself, Kylian Mbappe, who has also looked good, not great. If France wants to continue in this tournament past Portugal, they'll absolutely need him to step up a notch and be more clinical as well, but just so underwhelming from them. And the French could have their hands full against Portugal, but Portugal's also coming into a weird moment in this tournament, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. And then Belgium, I don't have much to say about this. They're embarrassing. The players, that is, got booed by their own support in the last game, which was definitely warranted. And you would think it would motivate them for a better performance, but it obviously didn't. And then, you have their captain calling a journalist stupid after the match, and it's just a joke, and they have no one to blame but themselves. I do feel for the fans who had to sit through this last chance saloon of the Belgian golden generation, or what was left of it. But I don't have much to say about them. I don't want to devote too much time to them. It was just embarrassing, a terrible outing from them, and they should honestly hang their heads in shame because it was just bad. It was really bad and honestly just embarrassing that is how you represent your country on this stage. Moving on to the next game, you got Portugal and Slovenia, 0-0 draw, and Portugal, it was not their best performance, and now that's 2 in a row where they haven't looked good. As the tournament has gone on, Portugal have started to look worse and worse. I thought they looked really good out the gate in those first 2 games, but since that, they've lost now to Georgia and have scraped by against Slovenia. And that's why I think this France class will be interesting, because both teams are looking very underwhelming. So maybe it'll be a battle between who's the least underwhelming. Maybe. We'll see, though. But yeah, their defense doesn't look great at the moment. Pepe's starting to look his age and nearly got caught out a few times. Diaz looks solid and cover for Pepe here. Cancelo is a weak spot in the right back slot. He's great on the attack, but when he has to defend, it's always where he looks out of his element, which you don't want from a defender. I do like Nuno Mendes on the left. He gets up and back, really well, and he's just rapid on that wing. And their goalkeeper, Diogo Costa, I think they should be thanking him because he is the star of the show. Made some crucial saves when they really needed him. 3 saves in the penalty shootout. And without him, we'd probably be talking about Slovenia and France quarterfinal. Look at the midfield, Paulinho. He's been an absolute beast in all fairness. He covers a lot of ground and is such a great shield to the men in the defense. Leao and Bruno Fernandes, I don't think are looking their best selves at the moment. Their impact has been minimal, and they'll need to really step it up against France. And then, of course, you have Ronaldo, and it is a bit sad to see one of the greats really show that Father of Time has kind of caught up to him. Some mind-boggling attempts from some of those free kick opportunities. I just want to know what he was thinking. Then you have a penalty miss, which could have been a terrible outcome, but credit to him, he did convert in the shootout with a perfect penalty, in all fairness. But yeah, Portugal started out strong and have really dipped. It will be interesting to see 2 out of 4 teams fighting for a spot in the semis in a rematch of the 2016 final. But looking at their opponents, Slovenia, another underdog gone, which is a shame, as I thought Slovenia nearly put in the perfect game plan. They made it difficult for Portugal to do much of anything, and they had a great defensive unit. Oblak made some crucial saves and was a proper captain. He's been one of the best goalkeepers in the world for the last 10 years, and I'm just glad that he got his moment to shine at a major tournament for the first time in his career. A player of his caliber definitely deserves that on his resume. Their center backs I thought were great. Drew Sick, I'm so sorry, I may have said that wrong too, and Bayol were immense. Bayol has been linked with some moves already, so keep an eye on that. And then up top, I can't help but feel a little bit disappointment with Benjamin Šeško. 2 great opportunities to put this game away, and he failed to convert both. That second chance, especially when Pepe slipped. Yes, it is a great save by Costa, but Šeško, I think, has to put that away. He is young and inexperienced, so I'm sure that part of play will kind of come. You hope. He is very talented. He's a great player. I do rate him very highly. But I think it's just an outing to forget for the young striker. But overall, another underdog nation punching above their weight class. Definitely a tournament for them to be proud of as well. Looking at Netherlands and Romania, Netherlands won this one 3-0, and right now, Netherlands are looking really strong, but there is always that hesitation around Netherlands when it comes to these tournaments because when they're looking good, you're always wary that they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, as they have so many times in the past. Their defense, I think, at this tournament is starting to look better and better. Ake has looked good during this tournament, and Van Dijk has also, of course, he's Virgil van Dijk. He's one of the best center backs in the world, has been for years, and he's had some shaky moments throughout this tournament, but I mean, it's Van Dijk, Dumfries, I think, has been solid at the back, but it's his attack that's letting him down. He's failing to convert chances, and if he did actually convert these chances, we'd probably be talking about him as a top goal scorer of the tournament, if we're being honest. De Vrij, in my opinion, has been the best defender this tournament. Sorry, their best, not the best. He's been one of the best, but he's been their best for sure. Their midfield has been pretty solid as well. Renders has been entertaining to watch, and Xavi Simons, I think, has been solid, a little bit underwhelming, but still, I think, a solid tournament for him. And off the bench, Dortmund's Malin has been sensational. He came up big in this match, scored 2 goals off the bench, and that second solo effort was just the icing on the cake. Depay is another one who's been underwhelming. He's failed to light it up, and you would think he'd be hungry to get that record goal scoring spot for the Netherlands, but maybe not meant to be just yet. Whereas Gakpo, I think, has probably been their best player this tournament and one of the best players at the tournament in general. Dangerous, scoring goals, creating chances, taking his man on. He just looks really good, and everything's kind of ticking through him at the moment. And he's been top class. He has been very top class. They're going to need another big performance from him against Turkey coming up, so definitely keep an eye on this one, because you just don't know what you're going to get with the Netherlands. Looking at their opponents of the day was Romania, another one of the underdogs that made it through, and I feel like if you're Romanian, it's hard not to be proud of this team here. They won, drew, and lost in the group stage. Beating Netherlands was always going to be a tough task, and they do have a lot of talent, but Romania did make it hard for them. Credit where it is due. Romania didn't just roll over. I know the score was 3-0, but it really could have been a different story had Romania finished their chances, and it's a solid tournament from them for sure, and one that they can leave with their heads held high, absolutely. Looking at the last game was probably a pretty big shocker, I would say, for a good few people, myself included, as Turkey won 2-1 against Austria. Pretty shocking, because Austria topped their group with Poland and France and Netherlands. So they were definitely favored here, and they were playing really well to this point as well. So to see them go out to Turkey feels a bit surprising. Their keeper made a good few saves, but could have potentially done better on the goals, especially that first one. Found himself wrong-footed for the first, and in all fairness, his defense did leave him out to dry a little bit, but he was wrong-footed, and when that ball came in from that first corner, it always looked a point of concern. He didn't look settled, and then he kind of flops around a little bit, and then before you know it, Turkey is up 1-0. It wasn't it under a minute, under 2 minutes for sure. I think it was in the first minute. So, you kind of look at that, and then you look at their defense, who, once again, like I said, left their goalkeeper out to dry a few times. And, they had some good performances here. Dansa and Posh were really good for the most part. The rest of the defense was a bit shaky, not terrible. Like I said, apart from, conceding. But then you look at Limer, who I thought had quite the underrated tournament. He's covered so much ground this tournament, and I just think he's not getting the flowers he deserves. I'm not sure if this is an unpopular opinion, but he's definitely been a very top performer at this Euros and has been great for Austria. And, you look at Baumgartner, and he did miss a few big chances. And in all fairness, that last gasp chance with the incredible save from the Turkey goalkeeper, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to take, because 9 out of 10 times that goes in for sure. And then Arnautovic really struggled to get into the game, in my opinion, was able to get chances, but not able to hold on to the ball or convert those chances, obviously. Sabitzer debuted a new haircut, and that's probably the biggest talking point from him for this game. Wasn't creating a ton, couldn't get involved, lost possession a good few times. Not his best outing, especially as he has been very good throughout this tournament. So the dark horses, I would have said, coming into this round of 16, to maybe go on and make a deep run or out at the first knockout hurdle. And I do think it is a little bit of a missed opportunity for them. But last but not least, of course, Turkey. A really well-drilled performance, some nervy moments after Austria scored, and a genuine tournament-saving save from their keeper Metz, with one of those last-minute saves that I think he'll hang that picture up on his wall maybe, because wow, unbelievable stop, and it would have put the game in extra time, and then obviously the momentum probably you would assume would be with Austria there. So yeah, top class, amazing stuff. But their center back Demiral is making all the headlines for scoring 2 goals and has now found himself banned for the next 2 games after doing a suggestive celebration. I don't want to go too much into detail about it. You could Google it if you'd like. I don't want to get the facts wrong. I'm going to kind of stay away from it. I don't want to be spreading any false narrative. I just know he did a, like I said, suggestive, to be polite, kind of celebration, and he has found himself, after an investigation, banned for the next 2 knockout games, which is going to be a miss for sure, and I can't imagine is going over well in the Turkey fan base. But I will say the defense has looked pretty good. They did shut off, though, for that goal, which is a sign of lack of concentration, which Netherlands is more than capable of punishing. Up top, Yilmaz, I thought, looked really good, really dangerous, and was getting in behind that Austrian defense and making things happen. But, of course, the star of the show for me is the 19-year-old Arda Güler. Yeah, there's a reason why he's playing for Real Madrid, isn't there? Controlling the game, like I said, at 19 years old, had the Austrian defense on strings a good few times. They just couldn't get close to him. Picked himself up an assist, and was just running the show, putting in great passes, just really taking the game to Austria. Everything positive was flowing through him. It's no wonder why Real Madrid scouted him. They, of course, have the Netherlands up next in the quarterfinals, so obviously it's going to be difficult. It won't be easy, but perhaps another upset is on the cards, and Turkey is really probably the last true remaining underdog, so, root for the underdog, right? But with all of that being said, this does bring an end to the recap of the round of 16 from yours truly at the Maple Footy Podcast. We are getting into the crunch time of the tournament. Quarterfinals starts on Friday, and some great ties have been set up. Of course, I'm excited to watch them. Keep checking this space for more episodes dropping. I'll, of course, do a round of 6. I just did a round of 16 recap, a quarterfinal recap, and as you know, I've been covering Canada's Copa run, so keep an eye out for that when they, depending on the result, whether they go through against Venezuela or go home against Venezuela. Only time will tell which one happens, but I will, of course, do a recap of that particular game. And yeah, follow me on Instagram at @OfficialSamLittle to be the first to know when episodes are going up. And thank you so much for listening. Until next time, everyone. Cheers.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at @OfficialSamLittle on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.